Welcome. I invite you to subscribe, like, and share this story. We really appreciate your support. Enjoy the journey. We are both 30 years old and our relationship spans 11 years with 5 years of marriage. However, our connection goes back to our elementary school days and we've maintained contact throughout our schooling. Therefore, we've known each other for approximately 23 years out of our 30-year lives. Our plan to celebrate our 5th anniversary with a trip to Italy in May was unfortunately canceled due to isolation measures. Around 4 months ago, my wife started going to the gym with her father, visiting him twice a week. She also began taking walks alone for 2 additional days. As I work longer hours, she usually arrives home before me. Lately, she has been coming home progressively later, sometimes even later than me. One day, she arrived home and said, "We need to talk." Initially, I assumed she needed money for something. Typically, I handle the family's financial responsibilities, being aware of our budget. She has specific monthly expenses for herself, separate from our usual monthly expenditures. I've always been supportive of this, although we occasionally argued about unexpected and unnecessary expenses. Overall, it was never a significant issue. When I asked if she needed money, she responded, "I no longer care about money. I care about our marriage." Puzzled, I inquired about her meaning. After a brief pause, she waved her hand and replied, "Okay, we'll talk later." From that moment, everything changed. 10 days later, she moved out of the house without warning. Initially, she blamed me for nearly everything, even events from many years ago. She expressed her unhappiness with me, stating, "I love you, but I don't love you, and I believe I've fallen out of love with you." As an argument, she even brought up our slight differences in religion and politics, which were known since the first day of our acquaintance. However, we are primarily secular individuals, placing religious secondary in our lives, and our political views align with those held by many. I later discovered that she had met someone at the gym, although she never mentioned it herself. When I inquired, she initially referred to him as a good friend. At that point, she had been attending the gym for only 3 months, and they had no previous acquaintance. While my wife moved out, I held on to hope of clarifying the situation and resolving our issues for her eventual return. Unfortunately, I later learned that their connection went beyond mere friendship. We met to discuss the situation, during which I confronted her with this information, and she admitted to cheating on me in the gym's locker room. However, she requested that I keep this information confidential. She insists that her departure had nothing to do with him, claiming it would have happened regardless of his involvement. Yet, I believe otherwise. She refuses to acknowledge her infidelity. Perhaps to avoid labeling it as such, since she had already decided to leave, she has since moved in with her brother and his wife. For many years, she held animosity towards her sister-in-law, but only recently began mending their relationship. Her relationship with her parents has also deteriorated. Initially, both my parents and her parents attempted to reason with her. However, my wife remains unwavering, continually asserting that her new boyfriend is not a factor in her decision. In fact, she blames me entirely, harboring even more anger towards me for exposing her affair at the gym. She resents her parents for not supporting her and instead choosing my side. Although I acknowledge that her relationship with her parents may improve with time, as they also tried to reason with her, I do not claim to be faultless. However, I never deceived her or spoke ill of her behind her back. She never made an effort to communicate her grievances with me. Perhaps it was my mistake not to inquire about them at the time. I'm uncertain. Presently, she has filed for divorce. I seek advice, although I understand that there's no possibility of reconciliation. I'm simply filled with immense sadness. Let's move on to the next story. This is the advice of another much-enough from the community. A sincere life story is better than any advice. And so, let's get started. I'm sorry to hear about your experience. It seems that you have experienced a classic case of betrayal, when a new love interest led to the dissolution of your marriage. If your wife was already unhappy, she could see her actions as an excuse to end the relationship rather than seeing them as cheating. I've read your post carefully, and I can tell you about a similar situation that happened in my first marriage, which was even worse. In my case, we were married for 7 years and had 2 children. I worked long hours while my wife took care of the kids at home. By the time we turned 29, I found myself in a situation similar to yours. I remained loyal and treated my wife well, but she often found fault with me because of money, and life with 2 children became difficult. She also lost interest in intimacy, and we rarely had sex, maybe once a month if I was lucky. One evening, I came home and found that she, the children, and all her belongings had disappeared. A handwritten note on TV simply read, "I'm leaving you." She took the children to her parents' house. When I got there, she shouted from the first-floor window, "Go away!" She flatly refused to talk to me and immediately filed for divorce. It was like a sudden nightmare, and I was left at a loss. She filed for divorce, citing moral cruelty as the reason, which was her favorite excuse. She turned out to be vindictive and vicious. At our third court hearing, the judge even kicked her and her lawyer out of the courtroom. Despite this, she eventually got a house and full custody of the children. I had to move into a rented apartment, and she quickly moved her lover there, turning our once-family home into their nest. I later discovered that she had a string of lovers while I was at work, and she even slept with them in our bed, having a regular lover. Do you know why she refused to talk to me after she left? It was because she didn't want me to reveal her secret affairs. She was afraid it would jeopardize her divorce case with me. If her immoral behavior had been exposed, the children might not have been left in her care, and the house would have remained with me. However, the opposite happened. Moreover, she knew that I would not fight for my share and would let her keep it for herself. These were the days before the widespread use of mobile phones and the internet, which made collecting information in those days extremely difficult. She was hurting me with things I could never have imagined. When I had the right to visit my children, the neighbors came out of their houses wanting to beat me. My wife told them that I was in jail for stealing an elderly woman's pension near the post office, and she even accused me of being a sexual pervert who raped her in various ways. That's the irony of fate. 4 years later, her boyfriend left her. Despite everything she did to me, she had the nerve to reach out and ask if we could get married again. I'll let you guess how I reacted. Let's just say that I gave her a clear and decisive refusal. The truth is that the person you love the most, who you consider your partner, can become your worst enemy. It's just the way life is. Your wife behaves the same way. It's likely that she had a relationship with this guy before she started going to the gym. When she went alone, she probably didn't even go to the gym, but rather spent time with him. If you have any evidence of her infidelity, collect as much as possible. These will be decisive factors during the trial, exerting psychological pressure on the opposite side. Unfortunately, you will have to consider your wife enemy number one and take a defensive position. Don't expect sympathy or empathy from her. As I mentioned earlier, collect evidence if you need it for your case. I understand the emotional difficulties you're going through, so don't try to suppress your sadness. It will come and go periodically for a while, but eventually it will pass. By the way, I have been happily married to my second wife for a long time. I no longer have high hopes for eternal love, and this kind of thinking helps us in our daily lives. I hope this advice helps, and please remember that you are not alone in this situation. Take care of yourself and remember that time heals wounds. The end. Well, what do you say, friends? Leave your opinion in the comments. And yes, I will remind you that all the stories are real, and if you want to share your story, write me an email. In the story, everything is named templates and you can remain anonymous. Soon, one person's confession will be released on the channel as he cheated on his partner. If you are interested in this format, write in the comments. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shipping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.